The music, ladies and gentlemen, has sometimes or always more to say as we can express in words. And when they played today his such wonderful, it reminded me to Einstein. Einstein has given his inaugural lecture in Prague, and he came into the lecture hall with his case, where his violin was inside, opened the case, has taken his violin, played Mozart, then has taken back the violin back in the case, and the audience was a little bit shocked that he is saying nothing, and he was saying, Mozart has more to say as I have to say. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy being here, especially in such a wonderful environment. And we from the Academy have to greet you, Excellency, Magnificus, the rectors, the former rectors, the spectabilis, you, ladies and gentlemen, and it gives me also a great pleasure to salute the many members of our Academy, which I find here in the audience. Dear Rector, Magnificus, the title and the meeting which you invented today is really a wonderful idea which fits totally in my taste, which fits totally to my thinking. Always in life we have to deal with the different boxes. As the minister has said, we are always confronted. Mostly we do not know what we have to do and a little bit desperate. And especially it fits wonderful when Maribor is the capital of the town of culture in Europe this year. There it is always good to think over how culture can contribute to our coexistence, how can culture contribute, as you say, in a new culture of living together, because I think that this is one of the great issues, and this is one source where we have the most misunderstanding how we deal in the culture of living together. But such a meeting is always very well because you can reflect your own status, how you see your contribution to life. Also, we are standing in a university, and you have here a wonderful audience hall. It's always to reflect what we are doing in all the sciences, and more or less we are trying to contribute to the search of life. And first of all, I would state that such a title, such a meeting, such a topic is like a candy, which is so sweet on your tongue. But then when you're thinking a little bit more, then you're a little bit frightened, because with the box, you always see anxiously the box of Pandora. And therefore, I would like to address three topics. First of all, what's wrong, where are our problems in our society, and like a doctor, how we can find a way out, what should we expect, and how we can contribute after such meetings to our own positions. Let's come to the first problems. What is the most severe problems through all the last centuries? We have always an enormous deficit in understanding the values. And it's more critical because it's not a loss, it's not a deficit, it's a loss of the values. And this creates the main problem. And when we are speaking now a little bit in our society, especially when Brussels is speaking from European values, then we have to re-question, what is a European value? When we are really investigating the values, we are coming really immediately to the result that the most values, what we are speaking, are secondary values, measurable values. You have it very often, Excellency, in your office that you can say, how can I measure, I'm coming from medicine, how can I measure well-being? How can I measure health? Therefore, we need other tools to get a new understanding in all those things. And I think we have to share and to focus much more on the values, keeping in mind that the life has per se the highest value. And how the life is sometimes mistreated, please open the newspapers. And from the life we can derive down to secondary values, to the virtues and so on, what we need in living together. But what is the result of a loss of values? We have an enormous fear to the future. On the weekend, I was reading a newspaper, and they showed that in Spain there are 25% of the young people unemployed. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know what this means? That's a new revolution in process. Unemployed youth, that's a disaster of our society. Or? An enormous disaster. And you have no, for the people, you are cutting them the complete future. The next problem is that we are also facing an enormous poverty. We have much more beggars now in Salzburg as we have it years before. And one is very striking, when people is now looking for food. So going to baskets and looking to have something to eat. This has nothing to do with measurable values which you can define, because you are losing your environment of the people. Another is that there's also to face a loss of the human dimension. And I'm focusing in this way. When you're going to many towns through Europe, especially to the eastern towns, you found them 20 years ago in a very ugly status. And this was also due to a high deficit in architecture. Architecture is much more as building a house. For building a house, you can take a simple constructor, but you need an architecture to get a human dimension in the house, like what Drecker has done here in this lecture hall, or remodeling this university. Or yesterday I have seen your new faculty of medicine, where you have a wonderful new setup, where you create a new environment for medical investigation, medical research. And ladies and gentlemen, believe me, in a good building, in a fine building, you're going to produce good things, fine things, which have a little bit an expectation to the future. But in all life, we are ourselves our architecture, and we see that there are some deficits, but in architecture, in the environment, it's starting to be better. People are taking much more care what's going to be built, and in sorts that the towns get a new living condition, has a different circles where people work, where people live, where people sleep, and so on, coming in a new dimension, also with transportation. And let's hope that we find here another way, because when you are working in a working ghetto, have an ugly transportation with 3 hours to get there, and you go 3 hours back, then you have an ugly environment in your home. That's clear that your soul is starting to get enormous deficits because you do not see something positive, something inspiring. And inspiring direct is also a part of innovation, that you get a new feeling. The most severe problem, which I personally see, is that since 200 years, we have another concept of financing states, financing things. We left the real economy and changed to a financial economy, to a virtual economy. And the results you can read in the newspapers. And I was a little bit struck when I have seen that Greece got from the European Union 380 billion euro, but no single euro was going to the people. The 380 almost were going to banks and to other organizations. And people who is starving and has no job is not going to understand this. It's also a little bit from an old theory, or let's say from an old saying. We had in the 16th century and 15th century with Charles V this big motto on his shield, plus ultra. Always more, increase, increase, increase. And how the plus ultra was working, we see it today when we are living in a world where we have a really imbalanced world. I think, I hope that those crises could lead to a new evaluation. And therefore, such meetings are so important to get really new pathways, how to get a new soil to have a real human living together. Ladies and gentlemen, we can speak all what we would like, but I think we share almost the same concerns as elder, younger, male, female, and so on. What are our main concerns? That's health, that's clear. Everybody thinks that he's going to be cured and is forgetting to take care a little bit to his lifestyle. Nutrition is very important, while we are standing in a world, living in a world where sometimes the whole environment is very polluted. Other thing, as you, Minister, addressed it, is the demography. With medicine, with all the hygienics, we have an increasing age of the people, that's good, and we all sitting here in the room would like to live for a long time period, 100 years, why not, but in a good health condition. And therefore, we have to contribute to it. We are contributing to our health twice. On one hand side, we can do a lot with our lifestyle. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you can do a lot with lifestyle. For example, when somebody has diabetes and he's a little bit too fat, then it's best not to give him pills, tell him he should walk a little bit, he should slim down, and the diabetes will disappear. And the other problem with aging is surely how we can finance all the pensions. The next problem is it really necessary that people is going with 65 years into retirement? I think we need a new world of working, a new working structure that, let's say, somebody starts in his youth with this profession, then he's until 65 in this profession, then with 65 he starts a new one, and the new profession is a new stimulus. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, thinking challenge is always good for the own brain, because the death is coming from the brain, and when you are keeping your brain elastic, that your brain can think, then you have your use in your brain. And one of our co-founders of the Academy was Cardinal König. and Cardinal König was near to 100 years, and he was asked on his birthday what he is doing, that he is himself in such a good shape. And he said very simple, I'm looking to the future. Simple as that. I said environment. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know the problems of the environment, and I personally think in the last 20 years a lot of impact has been done to have a clean world environment. We are looking on how we can avoid all the gases from industry and poison and so on. I think it's much better, but there's a lot to do. Next problem is the energy. I think it's not a simple solution when Germany says from one to the next day we cut down our nuclear energy, and then there's not enough alternatives given. I think this is a process of a constant living together, of bringing an input of the sciences to industry, how we can really detect new ways for energy. When I recall the batteries, for example, excuse me that I'm taking always some medical metaphors, but I was grown up in this world and therefore I can't get it. But the first pacemaker, ladies and gentlemen, was implanted in '52. And this patient had the wires in his heart, and then he had the battery set up, and there was somebody going after him with the batteries. And when you're looking today, the batteries are such a small that you can stand for 12 years. You see, we are capable to bring new technology into application for a better thing. But all is the main problem is the human dimension and the human reflection. And I think, and when we are sitting here in the nice architectural hall from Bodrecke, when you include in everything what you are doing the human dimension, then you are on a proper way for a living together, for a contribution to your society. But all together reminds me very closely to the eternal question, what is sciences? What is, for example, the task of our European Academy of Science and Arts? And when we open the box of Pandora, then you have one snake which is chaos entitled. And there was Mr. Peitgen with his fractal theory, who showed us that the most things in life can be derived to a triangle. And then we are coming, when we are taking the human dimension into account, then we can say all we together, everybody is nothing else in its essence, composed by his body, by his soul, and by his spirit. And this has to be balanced. And for example, when you are asking what is health, then it's nothing else as a balance between your body, your spirit, and your soul. And when you derive it to the sciences, then we see that we have another sort of a triangle. All we have a relation to the nature. It's clearly that we see there's the natural sciences, technical sciences. We all have in other regions, the interhuman relations, starting with the languages, history, social sciences, law, medicine, and psychology. And then we have the third field, our relation to the spiritual things. That's the philosophy, with the eternal question. That's the arts, ladies and gentlemen. The arts is a part of the sciences. And this was known by the Greek too. And then we have the religions. This is an important part. The one are where we are standing, and the other at the end where we are going. And this, you have to keep this triangle in the balance, and this balance is entitled interdisciplinarity, transnationality in Europe, and coming to you, Magnificus, building bridges. That's a result when you are having this triangle in mind, building bridges. It's the most important thing. But not only building bridges, as we have it on our money with the euros. Every note has a bridge. No, we need real bridges. To use the bridges with different... And when somebody is not coming to you on the bridge, then you are going to him over the bridge to meet him, to speak with him. And yesterday we had a very nice boat trip on the Drau, and in the near of, I think beneath of the new university, new faculty of medicine, there was a shield and standing was reminding us to Joseph Beuys. Joseph Beuys was saying, everything is art, alles ist Kunst. We all are artists. And this is when you're looking on an enlarged, and now we are coming a little bit closer to you, what you are meaning with interdisciplinarity and with the bridges, that we need now an enlarged picture, imaging of the sciences in toto, and also an enlargement of the religions in toto. And therefore the discussion everywhere are wonderful, especially when you, in any respect. And I was very much flattered with the idea from Beuys. Beuys, we discussed, your colleague yesterday, the position of Beuys. Beuys was 40 years ago completely misunderstood. I recall very good the nasty comments which have given to him, he's nasty, and so on and so on. But in Cologne, I have seen an interview between him and Pater Menekes, a Jesuit, and the best Christology I have seen by Beuys. You never have expected that Beuys was thinking in a complete other way, and the lesson what Beuys learned us is that we have to look in our own body, in our own situation, as you express it, Excellency. When I have been yesterday in the wonderful learning center of the your medical faculty, there have been endoscopes and so on, and I think, Magnificus, let's make an auto-endoscopy. Do you mean not an endoscopy to other people? Let's make look into our inside. And when I look in our inside, I'm not staying long, because there are so many problems that I give up immediately. But I think you're going to do better. But when we have also innovation, we need, that's clear, we need a new university with another setup, which a university which are breaking with static things, which are opening to new fields, going into new areas in sense of the interdisciplinarity. And one thing which is fantastic in our world is communication now via the computers. You have the possibility to have a virtual classroom starting. Somebody is sitting in Grönland, and the other one is sitting in Maribor, and the third is sitting in Salzburg, and the fourth is sitting in Rome, and they communicate and they educate them, they learn from each other how to do, what to do, and to get a new perspective. And I think it's the best form in a contribution to our European situation. My last and third point is how to come out, what to do, I would not say bailout. Bailout is where you have been in a critical situation, but not with a solution. I think the main thing is that we consider that education is such as important as I just stated with the media, and that you train your young people that they are on the way of the search only when they are contributing in a search, a way, trying to get real truth things and sharing with the other one. And then you have immediately a very viable exchange of ideas, exchange which comes to the box of life. And the one thing, when we are considering your title, Culture of Living, and I stated at the beginning that we have a non-conscience, that we do not know anymore the values. Then let me come back again. Life has the biggest value, and derived one set of the values are the virtues. And among the virtues, there's the tolerance. The tolerance is a virtue living together. And one prerequisite of tolerance is that you have your own stable standpoint. And the stable standpoint is nothing else as a good exchange, a good education, but furthermore, that you personally are giving the youth your example how to do it. Your students are doing the same things as you are doing. And therefore, the role of an academic teacher is very, very important to give the example, because how he is dealing with the patient, how he is thinking, this is transformed to the next generation. I think what we are doing is, when we are speaking together, we are forming our language, a new language. Sometimes the language is enough in love with heart to heart, but we get with all the sciences new effects, and when we derive it always to the human dimensions, I hope that we are starting to get a point where we can share the ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all very difficult to say, but we have to be grateful that this is an impulse, an impetus to think over a little bit. And when the title is out of the box, and when I started with the box of Pandora, which isn't still closed, I'm thinking to our last century, where we had a real Götterdämmerung of the whole of our thinking, of our exploitation, then I would say, let's motivate, let's find a human dimension. I would say, let's open the box of life. Thank you.